Ding dong! It's America, motherfucker!
Hello and welcome to a new little project I'm doing. So I'm trying to venture into the world of podcasting. As you can see, you might hear some more ums from me on this because I'm not really reading from a script, which, it's fine. It's fine. I say a lot. It's nothing new. So this podcast, which I'm titling I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, is all about animated features. Now, what kind of animated movies? Well, as the title would suggest, it's nothing relating to Disney. So don't expect to hear me talk about The Little Mermaid, Fantasia, The Lion King, Pixar, whatever. This is all animated movies not made by Disney. Pretty much the only rule. I talk about movies that are not made by Disney that are animated. The only exceptions to that would be if it's movies that were not Disney when they were, made. What I mean by that is, for example, I will maybe eventually talk about the Ice Age movies, because the Ice Age movies were not made by Disney. Now, sure, Disney now owns them because of the whole Fox buyout thing, but since all of them were made before that, I'll talk about those. Now, for something like, say, Spies in Disguise, which is another Blue Sky movie, that one was released after the Fox buyout, even though most of the production was before the Fox buyout. The fact that it was released months later, it counts. The only kind of grace period, I guess you could say, is that if, say, Disney buys off any other animation studio anytime soon, which who knows, it's possible. I would say if it's a movie that's released to the public within, say, 1 or 2 months, after that buyout, it's fine. And I say that mostly because by that point, most of the marketing has been done by whichever company would have owned it, so that's fine. Who knows if something like that will happen, but that'll just be like the rule. Not that I really need to find less limits, but just because I would like to talk about certain movies that weren't Disney but are now Disney because they were bought out. And it's only fair that I talk about them. I talk about them in the context of, when they weren't Disney projects. Now, with that out of the way, I wanted to do this mostly as a way to test out the waters. So I don't know if I'll actually put this in any official podcast area. I'm still thinking on that area. Should I do it in Spotify? Should I put it in Apple? Should I put it, where can I put it? So, let's see what happens. You might be listening to this on Apple. Who knows? It might be just on YouTube. Who knows? But, all that all out of the way, I was thinking, what should I do for my first video of these to really do it? And I wanted to go with something big, something like, maybe Space Jam, since that's coming out, or maybe a classic animated feature, something that people really like. And I figured, well, 4th of July is coming up, so that's perfect for a little test with a new animated movie from Netflix called America the Motion Picture.
Now, let's go start a fucking revolution.
Now, what is America the Motion Picture? Well, obviously, it's a movie about America. Surprise! But it's quite possibly the wildest interpretation of America. See, this is a movie starring Channing Tatum as George Washington, who was best friends with Abraham Lincoln, played by Will Forte. So, yeah, obviously, history's, all over the place in this. But it's really one of the wildest movies I've seen in a while. To the point that, just to be straight up, I enjoyed the movie. I found it really funny. But at the same time, I wonder if I found it funny more because of the writing, which I do think that there was a lot of good written jokes, or because of just how wild the scenario is. Because realistically, some of the jokes are kind of, miss. But because it's such a wild scenario, I kind of forgave it more often than I didn't. So, I don't know, maybe ask me in a year from now what I think about this movie, and I might change my mind. But right now, it's actually one of my top 10 favorite movies of 2021. So yeah, America the Motion Picture. Pretty much, the movie claims it's historically accurate. Obviously, that's part of the joke. But yeah, it's pretty much, here's how America was made. Here's the revolution. Here's our war with the British. Benedict Arnold is played by Andy Samberg, and he plays him as, stereotypically British and a werewolf for some reason. And it's just hilarious just how wild this gets. This is a movie wherein you have George Washington, who has, these chainsaw arm blades has to avenge Abraham Lincoln, who is killed by Benedict Arnold at the start of the movie. And Abraham Lincoln's like, oh, you gotta create this new nation. We'll call it America. Sure. It's just one wild movie. I mean, you have George Washington looking for other people. Like, he teams up with Sam Adams, played by Jason Mantzoukas, who here is like this beer-chugging frat bro. You have Thomas Edison, played by Olivia Moon, of all people. So they even mentioned, like, oh, she's a Chinese lady. Sure. And, she's got, like, jetpacks and all this stuff because, science. Yeah, Bobby Monahan as Paul Revere, who plays him as this I think he's supposed to be mentally challenged boy who was raised by horses, which explains why he's so good at running with horses. Again, sure, go with it. You have, and I'm sorry if I say this wrong, I probably will say it wrong. You have a Native American member of the team named Geronimo, played by Raul Trujillo. I'm sorry if I said this wrong. I should probably look this up real quick. Okay, so it's Raul Trujillo. He plays Geronimo. You got Killer Mike playing a blacksmith, which, I mean, I don't know if I should spoil it. I don't know. Do you guys care? The blacksmith turns out to be a famous American figure as well. Just saying, black man, hammer, do the math. As previously mentioned, you have Andy Samberg as Benedict Arnold, and he plays the hell out of it. And we would get Simon Pegg as the King of Britain. And yeah, it's just a crazy thing. I mean, it's from the people who made Archer, along with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who always do the craziest things. Like I said before, it's on Netflix. It's a pretty funny movie just for all the insane stuff. Like, you get like the creation of baseball, the creation of the national theme, the America's anthem, which the American anthem in this is not the American anthem we have, but it's possibly one of the most American songs you can think of once you hear it. But it's cool. It's cool. I mean, in many ways, this is a movie designed as to be the most awesome America as possible, while still acknowledging we're pretty dumb fucking racist in this country, realistically. Oh well, I don't know. I'm Mexican. I could say whatever I fucking want. But yeah, this is an insane idea to deliver. I mean, I put a review on Letterboxd on this, and I pretty much described it as, imagine if a high schooler who was high off of crack decided to start doing his history paper at the very last minute. So he just crammed in a bunch of stuff, and the only notes he had was from like the Assassin's Creed game that took place during the Revolution. I'm not sure which one it is. I don't play Assassin's Creed. That probably makes it funnier. I don't know. Then found out after the very first paragraph that and finding out that after the very first paragraph, he's not 1 day away from turning it in. He's actually 2 days late. So now he's rushing even more and just cramming in a whole bunch of stuff without even checking what it is, but trying to make sure that it sounds really good and really great. And then as he enters school, he remembers, oh no, it's not a history paper I had to do. It was a book report. So he quickly tries, making up the story, with all the details, making it sound like it's, like some forgotten gem of a book. And then, just before he gets a chance to turn it in, his teacher reminds him that it's a book report on a book that is historical about America, resulting in one last rewrite right before he can do it, where he quickly just changes the names of all the characters and the locations and whatnot to be representative of America, so it sounds like he did some work. That is what this movie feels like, because it is so over the top. I mean, like I mentioned before, there was Benedict Arnold as a werewolf. I mean, that's barely at the beginning. Abraham Lincoln, Washington being best friends, beginning. There is some really crazy stuff that goes on in this. Like, at one point, they go into a bar named Vietnam, and of course, it's, they're gonna do the jokes about, like, oh, America, left Vietnam too late, or, they probably went in there without any reason, and, they do those jokes, but it gets crazier because, you have them dealing with ghosts. At some point, you see, like, the British Army has, like, AT-AT walkers from, like, Star Wars. Big Ben is a transformer. We get an Endgame style fight at the end of this movie, which the trailer already hinted at. The trailer really didn't do this movie justice. By the way, I mean it kind of gives you an idea of how crazy it is, but not enough to a point where I think a lot of people are going to watch it. And unfortunately, because of that, I feel like a lot of the people are going to be turned off because the initial reviews I've seen on this feel a little harsher than they should be. I mean, I get it. People have different opinions. I'm not saying that everyone has to agree with me, but I feel like a lot of people are kind of missing out that this is supposed to be a joke, or don't acknowledge that it's a joke, but at the same time, because it's not doing some political thing that they want to see, they're going to just trash it. Like, whether it's the people who are mad because, like, oh, they're disrespecting actual history, or people who are like, well, since you're disrespecting history, you should give a more, say, liberal view. And look, I'm not against liberals. I'm a liberal myself. I'm just saying that sometimes some people want those specific views jammed into a movie that's really not trying to make a point about that. I get why you would want that. I mean, I have wanted that for certain movies before, especially when they try to hint at that. But from the get-go, you already know this is just a really dumb-ass retelling of America as we know it. And, that's fine. I mean, if you want a silly comedy about, like, oh, this is, like, the most awesome way that America was made, this is your movie. But if you're expecting it to, make an actual commentary, say, like, oh, this is what's wrong with America today, blah, 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 I just can't see that. And I see some reviews going on that tangent as, like, I mean, again, to each their own, but I feel like you're kind of missing out the point, which is that this is just a dumbass frat boy interpretation of what happened. And even then, it's a coked out dumbass frat boy interpretation to a point that none of it really makes sense, and that's kind of the joy in it. Again, if it wasn't for you, fine. But if you're complaining about the movie not doing specific things that you wanted it to do, that it was not really setting out to do, that's where I find it a little weird. I don't know, maybe this movie gets better reviews as time goes on. Maybe it gets reevaluated. I hope so. Maybe a year from now, I find myself in that position where I actually hate it. I don't know. All I know is that at this moment, I love it. I love how crazy it gets. None of it really matters, because none of it is really supposed to matter. It's just supposed to be, hey, what if instead of, the national anthem we had Freebird? Great. George Washington pulls out the guitar, and look, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for you. I probably should have given a spoiler warning, but you know what? Fuck it, I'll go back and put up spoiler warning. But yeah, it's just an insane animated feature. And with it being the Archer team, I actually gotta commend the people behind this, because you could tell right away, like, just art style wise, that it's the Archer art style. But they have a budget for a movie. Like, they even make jokes about how cheap it is. But I'm like, no, a lot of this stuff really looks good. Like, to the point that I wish I would have seen this on the big screen. Because just the amount of detail that goes into, like, a lot of the motion, the color, the violence is really good. I mean, of course, there's always kind of like a puppety feel to it, which is, par for the course because it's from, the Archer team. It's just so well done that it really looks interesting on its own. It's, one of those things where you can appreciate animation when it's not just the Disney animation, because, too many people fall under the whole, oh, well, animation should look this pretty, it should look as detailed as Disney does it. And sometimes great animation is great animation because of just the style. And this certainly has that style. It's great stuff. The action is fun. It's a dumb as fuck movie, and the animation really highlights that. I mean, I really don't know how I can praise it any more than that. I mean, beyond that, of course, it's just doubling back and, I mean, at times I kind of want to talk about the jokes because, and I already have, but because there's some really clever stuff in here. Like I said, there's an Endgame style fight, and it's like all these American icons, like you just got to see just to see who it is. I mean, I know the trailers already kind of give it away, but Paul Bunyan shows up and he's like fighting Big Ben, the Transformer, crazy stuff. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff, and in terms of how the British try to take over the world is just hilarious. Teabagging, just leaving it at that. But yeah, I just had a blast with this one. I mean, like I said, the animation was neat. The concept is dumb as fuck, but fun. A lot of the jokes worked for me. I mean, most of it was like the absurd, crazy, like, wow, they went that wild with it. But, you know, it works. I mean, it's definitely insane, so it's not something that I'll forget anytime soon. The voice cast was great. Channing Tatum was really funny as George Washington. Will Forte as Abraham Lincoln. I mean, look, every time I get reminded of Clone High is a good time. So the fact that they referenced that, you know, great. Olivia Moon was actually really fun as Thomas Edison, especially as she's supposed to be like the straight woman of the group, like, you know, just literally like taking everything more at face value compared to the other ones, and understand like you guys are a bunch of fucking dumbasses. I love the racial humor that came about once you have Geronimo and the blacksmith, especially them together, and, you know, pointing out like, look, all these fucking white people are fucking idiots who are, you know, just don't know what the fuck they're doing. But, you know, this America thing sounds kind of cool, so we'll go along with it, even though we're probably gonna get fucked over by, besides our best interests, which they acknowledge. Again, there's a lot of clever stuff in here. I don't really see where a lot of the hate is coming from. I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of it is just people wanting it to be a specific thing that it's not, and that just feels unfair to this, since realistically, I wouldn't go in demanding, I don't know, like a slapstick comedy telling me about life. I mean, you know, if it does, you know, that's great, but this is just an absurd comedy about America and, you know, making the most awesome visuals. I don't need it to tell me about what's wrong with America today, or what liberals need to do, or how Republicans can go fuck themselves, which they should. I don't need that. It's fun. It is what it is. I mean, I don't see the need of turning something into something else that it doesn't need to be. I don't know. Again, if that's how you feel, fine. I may feel like that in a year from now. Honestly, all I can say is that, you know, this reminded me a lot of the movie Team America. Team America was one of those movies that I remember really liking as, you know, as a teen when it came out. Watching it now, I mean, it's got its funny moments, but you know, the best stuff is usually when it's like, you know, full on, you know, doing the awesome, you know, America shit. Once it starts getting into the more political side of things, it doesn't hold up as well as it thinks it does, and I know some people are gonna be mad about that, but it's true. This reminded me of that. Only I think this one will probably age a little better because it's not trying to be that hard into the political things. Like, you know, it makes the jokes, but it's jokes that, you know, people, you know, are usually on, you know, understand. Like, you know, like there's a whole joke about the AR-15s and like, oh, you know, we're gonna use them to battle, but, you know, you guys got to give it back afterwards because these are too dangerous for the market. And of course, you know, well, you know what where they are at nowadays. So, I mean, it's got that kind of political humor, but it's not going to be like anything like, you know, in terms of political ideology. Like, it's not going to go left or right too hard. Obviously, it's left. It's definitely a more liberal thing because, you know, one, the diverse cast. It emphasizes, like, hey, America's for everyone. But it also acknowledges, like, well, you know, realistically, America's kind of a piece of shit when it comes to diversity, given, you know, how badly it's treated, you know, black people, Native Americans, Chinese people, women, Mexicans, whoever, immigrants. But yeah, so I think that's all I can really say about it. If you enjoyed this, please give me a like, subscribe. I am planning to do more of these. There's going to be more structure to future episodes. This was more like just to give you an idea of what to expect for this. I wanted to do more on the production side, like talk about a little bit on like, oh, this is how it was made. This is, you know, what they were doing. This is something that they would have done, but since it's just a relatively new movie, there's not much of that info out yet, so not much I can do on that front. But, you know, in future episodes I would like to delve more into that. And if, hey, you want to, you know, join in, talk with me on these, I might do guests for certain videos. So, you know, comment, let me know, let's talk. See you next time.